I used to think that making art in times of global suffering was selfish and self-absorbed. I've since completely changed my mind on this, and in this video essay I'll be explaining why. So if you let me go back in time just a little bit to when I was involved in direct action campaigns for the climate and against weapons companies, we were first trained in the principles of non-violence, and when we were out on action we chose those principles every time. When we were met with violence, for example from the police or the public, we were trained to respond in disciplined non-violence. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that violence is never the answer, especially when we are talking about an oppressed and or occupied people trying to get free. But for us, in that moment in time, in a Western country and with the climate in mind, with the wisdom of those that had come before us, we chose non-violence because it was our vision of the future. We had the option not to put more violence out into the world, to diffuse it when it reared its head, and when everything is telling us to react violently. Having non-violence as our principal output was powerful. It represented our hope for a less brutal world. In a similar way, in a moment that feels like it's actively trying to wipe out the roles of artists and creators, to carry on creating in a world that says stop is resistance. It's a vision for the future, one that still contains art, connection and expression, despite the odds stacked against us. It's a hope that there will still be art in the future that we're headed towards. Some AI models have been built in order to take away our abilities as artists to harness our skills to generate income. The billionaire class and the tech CEOs, they have no skill. They do not know how to make art, and so they have stolen ours. AI is a way for capitalists to seize the means of production from individual creators. Art making was one of the final frontiers. Big tech has crossed it, leaving the destruction of creative careers in its wake. Artist Molly Crabapple calls it the enclosure of human creativity into corporate platforms. Aside from the automation of art, there's also the destruction of our planet, the source of so many artists' inspiration past and present. Just 4% of the world's mammals now represent wild animals. We've lost 2/3 of our global wildlife population since the 1970s, and now just 3% of the world's ecosystems remain intact, with 75% of the world's land surface significantly altered by human activity. The natural world has always been my #1 source of inspiration, but now I recognise its loss in everything that I study, and every brushstroke contains my grief. It's another factor in this late-stage capitalist world that seems to say, stop creating. Everything is a wasteland. There is nothing to marvel at. Nature has no value until it's destroyed for profit. The cost of living is another factor that is squeezing art from our lives. We pay more than ever before simply to stay alive, from our food bills, our energy bills, our rent, our water, our transport. And once all of these are paid, what money is left to support art? What's more, the concentration of wealth into smaller and smaller groups means that fewer people can and will support artists. What kind of art are the billionaire class going to support? The kind that allows them to exploit the art market for tax evasion purposes, of course, not the art made by you or I. Lastly, the bleakness of this current moment, the live-streamed genocide of Gaza for 22 months, the overlapping climate disasters, the wars for lands and resources, the rise in nationalism, and the erosion of democracy and truth make it a rather inhospitable place for us all, especially those that choose to respond to the world with creativity. For me, I once believed that art was a way of leaving my mark on this world that might last into the future and perhaps into a time when I'm no longer here. But since I've come to terms with the reality of the climate crisis, there being a future with humans in it at all seems more and more unlikely, especially a future where my paintings will be remembered. When society collapses and survival under brutal regimes is all we have, where will my paintings be? So the role of the commercial artist appears to be becoming obsolete, and the pool of customers buying art has shrunk considerably. The fabric of society is unravelling, and the natural world is on the brink of collapse. Who has time to create, and why should we? Well, as Catherine, who is one of my favourite video essayists on the platform, recently said, art isn't a luxury. It's not just for the privileged or something extra to do when life is easy. It's one of the ways we not only survive, but remember that we even want to. And I don't know about anyone else, but I want to survive. I still think this world is beautiful, and I still believe in human beings. I will always bow down to the majesty of the natural world, and I want something better for all of us. I want to make art, and I need art in my life that reminds me I want to survive. We really need art throughout these times of struggle and strife. We need art that imagines the future, that shifts our focus from the self to the collective, that stirs feelings of grief and awe at the natural world, that threads us back through time to our art-making ancestors, that reminds us that we aren't simply workers, consumers and voters. We are complex mammals with big, curious brains who have always expressed our experiences through art, from the earliest cave paintings to the modern canvases of today. This world, however, doesn't want us to be present. It wants us to grind, to obsess, to covet, to conform, to suffer in silence and to compete. And so even the simplest act of observing and creating from our observations, from what exists before us, is a radical act. In the face of impermanence and death, it takes courage to love the things of this world and to believe that praising them is our noblest calling. I don't know about anyone else, but when I see fellow artists creating and observing and participating in this world, it gives me hope and direction. It makes me feel less alone. It inspires me to take a similar path. There are people that are rejecting the vision of the world laid out for us by tech CEOs, warmongers and oil execs. They believe in a future enough to make art into it. They believe in the present moment enough to capture it on paper. When I see fellow artists carving out time for their practice, it reminds me you can decide what's important to you. Is it grinding at your day job, saving up for status symbols, climbing a career ladder in the hopes of one day exploiting the people below you? Or is it figuring out how to paint the waves, or that light on top of the hill, or the dream that you had last night? There are things that we are conditioned to focus on, but we can reject them at any time and decide for ourselves what's important. Survival lies in sanity, and sanity lies in paying attention. The capacity for delight is the gift of paying attention. Of course, and given my track record, I still believe deeply in taking direct action on issues that really matter and to prevent greater harms. But I no longer believe that art is something people necessarily do to turn away from this world. Certainly it can be. People do it for fame, for money, for validation, escapism and privilege. And I'm someone who's done some of those things. But now I see that it doesn't have to be one or the other. Political engagement or art. In fact, it's a shame to shun one in favour of the other. All the best artists I know take to the streets, organise with their communities, and denounce the injustices of the world, alongside gifting their beautiful work to us.